One of our feature areas that we're going to be focusing on is to create a traffic safety culture in the city of Edmonton. And part and parcel of that is shifting the mode of transportation from private vehicle to public transit, walking, cycling, perhaps motorcycles. It really becomes prevalent on all of us to adopt a safety culture and share our responsibility for the use of the road, because vulnerable road users are particularly susceptible to an increase in injuries or fatalities from those interactions. We're certainly seeing during the weekday, the peak hours from 6 to 9 in the morning and 3 to 6 in the afternoon, have about 37% of our pedestrian-involved collisions happen in that time frame. 64% of our pedestrian-involved collisions with motor vehicles are occurring in pedestrian crosswalks where the pedestrians have the right of way.
Pedestrians will always lose in a collision with a motor vehicle because of simple physics. The mass of the vehicle, the momentum of the vehicle, the kinetic energy that's stored in the vehicle is delivered at the time of the impact. And so what ends up happening is that energy has to be transferred somewhere, and it's transferred to the body. And the body is not designed to tolerate that kind of energy. When a car hits you, you usually get thrown onto the bonnet, and then you hit the windshield, you get a serious head injury, and then you're thrown onto the ground, and if you don't get another injury, chances are good you're going to be run over by another vehicle. So there's absolutely no way that you could have a good outcome when a car hits a pedestrian.
Once you have a walk signal, you can legally cross the road. Be mindful of other drivers who may be turning, so it's a shared responsibility. Make eye contact, ensure you can do so safely. Once the countdown signal is activated and the hand is flashing, you're no longer permitted to cross the street unless you're already in the crosswalk. There are significant fines for crossing against the countdown signals, as well as jaywalking, to help mitigate or reduce that behavior, because it is placing pedestrians at a very high risk.
We see on TV and we see in our movies these great stunts where somebody gets hit by a car, brushes themselves off and walks away. That's not what happens in the real world.
The difference between when someone gets hit and doesn't expect to get hit from a car and when they are planning and do expect is it's tenfold. When you know you're going to get hit, you can at least protect yourself, whereas someone that doesn't know that the hit is coming, it's going to be a surprise and they're not going to be able to protect themselves. The car hit is done with the utmost safety and concern for the performer, the driver, and everybody around that's involved with the stunt. When we're preparing a car for a car hit, there's so many different styles of cars and there's so many different dangers on a car. So here's a perfect example of something that I would get rid of right off the bat. He could get an elbow caught in there, instantly break his arm, his elbow, his shoulder. You definitely want to get rid of this antenna. These two things for sure. You want to get rid of these things here. These rear view mirrors on this truck, you don't want to get pummeled with this thing. It's hard, it's got bolts in it. So I just told you about all the things that we do in the movie business to get rid of or to make the cars more safe for the performers. But in real life, you don't have that luxury. It's going to happen fast. It's a huge vehicle and it can hurt you, it can maim you, it can kill you, it can break your bones. I have a story about a car hit that happened to someone close to me, my brother actually. It happened several years ago.
On October 3rd of 2003, I was having a day at work, did my day at work, ended up meeting up with some friends. In walking to another location on White Ave, came across a marked intercross for pedestrians. I was making the crossing of the intersection. A drunken, disorderly individual crossed the intersection in a Ford, I think it was a 79 Ford F-150 going around 50 kilometers an hour. That struck me, chucked me for about 25 to 50 feet and broke 15 ribs, punctured my lungs, a lot of skull damage. My hips and groin broke a lot of bones in there and broke my femur, putting me in a coma for 3 to 4 weeks and in the hospital for 3 months.
Where I walked in and he was just full of tubes and tubes on each side and IVs from all over the place and breathing tubes and bandages, and his face was swollen, and it was unbelievable. It was it's such a vivid memory in my mind.
October 7th, 4 days after the accident,
Still unconscious.
The worst consequences are when a pedestrian will suffer a head injury. Those head injuries at times are fatal, and if they're not fatal, they have long-term consequences.
My head injuries are probably more severe than I myself think, because it's a matter of perspective. And since the injury, I have lost friends that I had before. True actions that I've taken that have probably been derived or caused from the incident with the brain damage. This incident has had a huge impact on me and my family.
I don't know if anything can ever prepare you as a parent for what our family has gone through, because it was devastating. We didn't know what was going to happen to David, and we just couldn't bear the thought of losing him. Dealing with psychologists, dealing with doctors, dealing with therapists, finding lawyers. The 2 weeks in court, work was affected because they no longer had me. Make sure that his finances were in order and his home was taken care of. It's overwhelming.
It affected our whole family. You don't realize it until it happens, and you know it's cliche to say you don't realize it until it happens, but you really don't. He is a different person now, for sure, because of the head injury.
It's been 9 years since the incident occurred, and my condition, I'm probably at about 80% of what I used to be. I'm not back to normal, and I don't think I ever will be, but it's a pretty tragic incident that will affect me for the rest of my life.
People ask me all the time, when do these collisions occur with pedestrians? And the answer is very simple. They occur when you least expect them to occur. They occur when you're crossing that road just like you've done it 1,000 times before. They occur when you think everything's under control.
On that evening, the truck won, and that's the way it's always going to be, no matter if it was going 50 kilometers an hour or 5 kilometers an hour. I was legally acting properly, but the fact is, you're on the road and you've got to respect the vehicles that are around you and respect yourself to make sure that you know what's going on.
Yes, you can be dead right about having the right of way, but you can also be dead. And there is a need for us to share responsibilities between pedestrians, drivers, so at the end of the day, everybody goes home safely.